In today's video, we're going to do another 2024 election recap in 5 different states. We'll look at everything up and down the ballot, and lined up for today, we've got Ohio, Arkansas, North Dakota, Virginia, but we're going to kick it off here in the Garden State. We've got New Jersey. And for a lot of people, this was the biggest shock of the election. For president, it goes blue. No surprise about that. Kamala Harris with only 52% of the vote, Trump with 46. That's a massive about 10-point swing since 2020. In a different video, we'll look closer into some of the counties, but this combined with a closer than expected race for governor in 2021. That means some people are thinking this state might be a future swing state. I think it's way too early for that. This was a solid blue state up until a minute ago, and this is still a more than 5-point margin, so we've got to see what happens over the next 1 to 2 cycles at least. But for some more data, we also had a U.S. Senate election here, and it was an open seat. The winner here was Andy Kim with 53.5, Curtis Bashaw at 44, Kim running about 1.5 ahead of Harris, and Bashaw running about 2 points behind Trump. So that must mean Trump has the bigger appeal at the top of the ticket. But this margin also was just under 10 points, so not the total landslide some people were predicting. Now we could go down here to the U.S. House. We've got 12 districts. There were no flips, and 9 of them are going to go to the Dems, 3 to the Republicans. I think this map clearly benefits the Dems, and it was actually 6-6 not that long ago in this state. But even with all that presidential shift toward the right, there were only 2 races here under 10 points. The closest there was in the 9th, and that was an open seat. And that actually wraps it up here for New Jersey. The governor's race is next year along with the legislature, and there were no ballot measures here, so we can move on to Ohio. Here, a very robust win for Trump. He's over 55%. Harris is at almost 44. So that's a solid double-digit win there for Trump. Next, we can look at the U.S. Senate, and Bernie Moreno prevailed over Sherrod Brown. He flipped and picked this seat up for the GOP. He cleared 50%. Sherrod Brown is at about 46.5. So Moreno ran well behind Trump, and Brown ran ahead of Harris, but that was just too much of a margin for Brown to overcome, with Trump winning it by more than 10. So Moreno, who was not seen as a super strong candidate in that GOP primary, but he was endorsed by Trump, he does get this crucial pickup here for the GOP. There is no governor's race this year, but we can look at the U.S. House, and there's 15 seats. Democrats have 5 of them, Republicans 10. There were no flips. 2 of them were very close, under 3 points. The closest one here was in the 9th. That has very long time incumbent Marcy Kaptur prevailing over Derek Merritt. That is a winnable seat there for the GOP, especially if Kaptur retires. But we can look at the legislature, and it's still going to be overwhelmingly controlled by the Republicans. And then we have one ballot measure here. This would establish a Citizens Redistricting Commission. A lot of contention over that one, but it ended up failing, with no getting 54%. Maybe there's some confusion there, but redistricting has been a big topic in the state of Ohio. And finally, we've got a few Supreme Court races. And here, Republicans actually defeated 2 incumbent Democrats. So now that court is going to be ideologically dominated by the conservatives. So that concludes the Buckeye State. Let's head a little bit south into Arkansas. And Trump won the state by more than 30 points. He did a little bit better than he did 4 years ago. He's over 64. Harris is under 34. Kennedy over 1%. There are 4 seats in the U.S. House. Democrats don't have a chance at any of them the way the map has been drawn. And all 4 of them the Republicans cruised. There is no Senate or governor's election in this state. But in the state legislature, it's an easy trifecta here for the GOP. Then we have a couple of ballot measures. The first one was not at all controversial. It would allow more types of schools to receive state lottery-funded scholarships. You almost see nothing passing with 90%, but this one did. The second one is about casino licenses, and it would require special local elections at a county level to approve those licenses. That one was closer, but it still passed with 56%. There is one statewide race here for treasurer, and Republicans won that one by 35 points. And finally, we've got a state Supreme Court race, and the winner there in a close one was Karen Baker. She won by about 6 points. That one should be viewed as more of a win for the Democrats. So after that, we can move on to North Dakota. Here we've got Trump again doing a little bit better than he did in 2020. He's way up there, though, at over 67.5. Harris is under 31. We had a full slate of elections, though, in this state. For U.S. Senate, Kevin Cramer was reelected. He's at 66.5, only 1 point worse than Trump. And Katrina Christensen, the Democrat, she's at 33.5. That's almost 3 points better than Harris. Still not at all close. For governor, though, we had an open seat, and the winner is current U.S. Rep. Kelly Armstrong. He's going to be the next governor. He won with about 68%. The Democrat Pepcorn there got about 26. So that margin was even wider than it was for president. But there was an independent candidate there that got about 5.5. Now we also had an open seat in the U.S. House. The winner there was Republican Julie Fedorchak, and she got the highest percentage yet. She's at just under 70%. The Democrat there finished with 39 points less. So if you had any doubts about how red this state was, this should give you some idea. In the legislature, it's overwhelmingly going to be Republican. That should not come as a surprise based on what we just saw. So then we could look at the ballot measures. And this first one passed with wide approval. It would update some of the terminology in in the state constitution. The example they give here is changing deaf and dumb to deaf and hard of hearing. That got 84% that said yes. Here was a closer one. This would increase the number of signatures required to put a constitutional initiative on the ballot. That would go from 4 to 5% of state residents. And it would require petition signers to give a complete address. And these measures would have to be approved twice, once in the primary and once in the general election. There's a lot there. I'm not stunned it failed. No got 56%. But this next one is even closer. It would limit the money that can be spent from the state's legacy fund, which receives revenue from oil and gas production. The state would only be able to spend 5% of the principal every 2 years instead of 15. It seems like another one that's unusual. I'm sure there's different pros and cons, but it did narrowly pass. Yes got 52%. Measure 4 would bar state and local governments from levying taxes based on the value of a home or property. That one failed with no getting 63%. And finally, legalizing marijuana failed with no getting 53%. So some different stuff there, but then we've got some more statewide races. In this, either the Republicans won or they were nonpartisan. And the last one is another win for the Republican on the Public Service Commission. So after that, we've got one state left. It's going to be Virginia. And this was a closer race than expected. Harris did win it, but she was under 52. Trump is at about 46.5. That's down from about the 10-point margin Biden put up 4 years ago. In this state, the governor's race is also going to be next year along with New Jersey. But we did have a U.S. Senate race, and Tim Kaine was reelected to another term. He's at about 54. Hung Kao is at about 46. So about an 8-point win there for Kaine. And he did run more than 2 points ahead of Harris, while Kao ran less than 1 point behind Trump. Then we've got 11 seats in the U.S. House. Dems are going to have 6 of these, Republicans 5. 3 of them were under 5-point margins. Jen Kagan secured another term in the 2nd, but in the 7th and the 10th, those were open seats. And they did get much more competitive, especially in the 10th, but Democrats were still able to hold on there. So no seats flipping in this state. And the last thing we've got here is one ballot measure. And this is extremely uncontroversial. This amendment would change language about a tax benefit that is given to spouses of soldiers killed in action, making it also available to soldiers of spouses who died in the line of duty. I'm going to say that's almost unanimous. 93% are supporting that measure. So I think that's a high note to end on. But again, different things happening in different states once you look more into it. And that's it for this one. So let me know in the comments. Anything else you're taking a look at in these 5 states, let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.